Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today's Tuesday. It is November the 18th, and I'm happy to have you along on a day when the internet is falling apart. We've got some sort of a downed outage, cloud strike, fail. What a day. What a day to have that happen. So what that means on our end is that X is not working properly, or Twitter. The download programs are not playing. A lot of the tools I use to be able to rip clips are not working. We don't have any special clips for today, but that means we're going to just kind of hone in on the stories that are there without a lot of extra evidence. If you guys haven't figured out, kind of my format is I see what's happening on the trending whatever feeds that are going out there in the world. I see newscasts and what people are talking about, and I want to kind of have an instinct of what they're discussing and then put it into my own context. So I kind of use clips as evidence on a regular basis. That's not happening today, but that's all right. It's not gonna throw us off. You guys may have realized I can talk with or without a clip, and I don't necessarily need to take a breath to do it. So we're going to discuss a couple of things. I found an interesting article from the New Yorker. You're going to be shocked to find that everybody is piling on Kash Patel. Yesterday, there was a big push about a story that I'm fairly confident we broke about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and it might have even been longer than that. But the idea that the American taxpayer is paying for a security detail for the FBI's girlfriend, not a spouse, that is a critical distinction for whatever it's worth. That hit the mainstream. I do find that to be kind of interesting because, one, I shared it with you. If you're part of this audience, that's not news to you. If you're part of Alex Jones's audience, if you listen to Clayton over on Redacted, none of this stuff is going to be news to you, the people that I go and I speak with on a fairly frequent basis. But it did hit MSNBC, which is now known as MS Now. That's actually really gross to pop in on. So I went to MS Now this morning and found a couple of fun articles that I wanted to cover, particularly because it does show us the disconnect in this nation, and where we choose to get our news tells us about the world that we're living in a lot. And if you live in a world that's full of racism and misogyny and anger and mean spirits about immigrants, then you live in a special little place that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And if you live in the Fox News, everything is great, our team is winning, we have to cheer on our guy, and Donald Trump is going to be the person that I want to name my baby after, then you live in another world. And if you live in the middle, which I think a lot of people in America do, we can look at both sides and go, okay, that's true, but that lacks context. And you can look on the other side and go, that's pretty much garbage. I think you guys are being cheerleaders. I want you to put down the pom-poms. And so, I just kind of cruise in between here and see these things. Yesterday, we played you some Michelle Obama, which is appropriately disgusting. I'm going to do some more disgusting stuff today. It's going to be in the written form, so I will read it to you. And then it's like, if only there was a simple solution. A lot of times we get into these problems, and the one that continues to hammer me, my wife and I go to these stores, we'll go to a restaurant. I cannot help but notice we are not, like Mr. and Mrs. Olympia physiques. I'm in relatively good shape. My wife's in good shape. But neither one of us is like turning around and running a marathon tomorrow. Not that I think that's what good shape looks like. And yet I see some really, really obese, toddling, like what were those people in the Alice in Wonderland, the Tweedledee and the Tweedledum, like roly-poly type human beings that make up Americans. And so people are less and less healthy. And that is not an overnight thing. Like people in America did not become fat overnight. There was an 80s version of fat. There was a 90s version of fat. There was a 2000s versions of fat. And then there's whatever today is. And it's like the small, mid, and super fat scenario. We've got some people that have gotten themselves into kind of a corner when it comes to nutrition and body type and sort of the health things that comes along with it. And I thought we were going to actually kind of cruise our way out of it. I was just looking through some of the old clips I had in my clip archive. I've got a whole bunch of people that are threatening violence if SNAP benefits are not reinstated. You guys remember how big a deal that was a few seconds ago before they reinstated the government funding, and everybody who's impoverished and needs government subsidies can go back to eating junk food on our dime? In any case, there's a lot of like really morbidly obese people in this world who are looking for a simple solution. And I think that actually is a pretty good metaphor for the way that all of us look for a simple solution for any of our problems. If there was a push button way to make sure that you're better off, everybody wants it. And whoever solves it, right, gets a bunch of money. I got a story about Ozempic and some of the cost-cutting deals that they're doing on that. Of course, nobody wants to do the hard work of actually gritting your teeth and doing the unfun thing of like punching out a bunch of cardio and reducing your diet and eating foods that are not super sweet and hyper palatable, as my buddy calls it. Nobody wants to do the difficult thing. Everybody wants the beach body, but nobody wants to do the work, right? That's why they have beach body in 30 days and a million diets that do all this kind of stuff. And I just see that a lot of our society has catered to this like nonsense, this laziness. And it's not American, it turns out. Americans created this country by the sweat of their brow and went out there and risked everything and may or may not survive to be able to get there. I don't know. This instinct that things should be easy and that we can just cry about it on the other end of it. Yesterday, I did about 90 minutes worth of PT, and then I ended up jogging to a park with my kids behind their bicycles and jogging back home, which I didn't really plan on doing. I wasn't all that thrilled about when we got halfway out there, and then they were like, let's go to the park. It's like, oh, well, that's like another mile. Whatever, let's do it. You know, that actually turns out to be the way that you do things, as opposed to kind of just saying, well, what if we got an Uber? I got a story about Uber as well. So we're going to just kind of hit this smorgasbord of topics. And one thing I do want to key you guys into, we may end up doing, Alex Jones is known for doing the emergency broadcast. It's emergency. It's a breaking exclusive. Like, I may end up doing something like that later on today. The Blaze is poised to drop a story in the J6 pipe bomb saga that is, I think it's revolutionary in what it's going to explain to people. And I kind of teased it yesterday. So I'm watching a website to see if it happens, and it should drop maybe in the next 20 or 30 minutes. So if you're listening in the replay, there may be a supplemental like 15-minute coverage of this on our Spotify channel, and it will probably come without any pre-read ads. All right, all of that is a lot to say, and we're going to get into all that nonsense. Sorry, I'm just kind of getting away with myself. Let's go ahead and talk about one of our sponsors real quick. If you're worried about things being screwed up in this country, which many of us are, if you remember COVID, millions of people bought emergency food, and that was it. It's kind of a mistake to buy the emergency food and you don't have any way to cook it. There's always, I guess you could eat it cold, but most people in a real emergency, when the power might be out or the grid goes down, are going to want to be able to have like a hot meal. It's actually one of the few things that will really kind of pick your spirits up. If you guys have been in the military, you know what I'm talking about. Sitting down and having a little pity party in an MRE can really pick up your mood when things are cold and damp. So my friends over at My Patriot Supply have created the Black Friday Survival Special. It's a 4-week emergency food supply. That could be 1 week for each of you and your family members. In a pinch, it is $150 worth of free gifts included, including everything you need to make those meals. So there's going to be a cook stove and some fuel, fire starters, water purification, bug out bag, ways to carry it all and get moving and all that kind of stuff as well. It is a complete survival kit that your family might need to ride out a short natural disaster, civil unrest, something like that. Makes a great Christmas gift for someone you love who you're worried about not being prepared, or maybe they need to be able to bug out towards you to get to your stash. Yeah, check it out. It's available now through Black Friday, and it's at mypatriotsupply.com/KYLE. There is a link below in the show description. Again, don't let yourself be in that mindset that everything is going to be fine forever. This is not fear-mongering. This is just the eventuality. Eventually, a natural disaster, civil unrest, government failure, some sort of other thing, SNAP benefits dropping off, and food riots. I don't know. Anything could happen your way. So make sure you guys prepare yourself for the worst. And then, have a little bit of peace of mind because of that. Prepare instead of repair. mypatriotsupply.com/KYLE. Let's do whatever we're going to do today. Here we go. So I found this article. One of my buddies sent it over, one of the Suspendables crew, who's no longer able to comment freely. There is a social media policy that is imposed on this man. But this article from the New Yorker is kind of interesting. And it's going to segue into a concept of parasocial relationships, which is a story that I found over, who wrote the parasocial relationships? CBS did a sort of a thing on that. So we're going to talk about this concept that we are rooting for our guy, and that many of you have a relationship with people that is incredibly and entirely one-sided. How many people out there say, well, I don't know what's going on, but I believe in fill in the blank person. RFK Jr. cares about my health, But RFK Jr. doesn't know who you are, has never met you, most likely will never meet you, will not have a personal relationship with you. And yet you've assigned this sort of like one-dimensional feelings. A lot of people felt the same way about Dan Bongino, sitting and listening to his podcast for many years. I had a slightly more realistic relationship with him, and it was like every relationship. It had sort of a beginning, a middle, and then a kind of an ugly falling out because he turned out to not be the guy that I thought he was. And then some of you are now dealing with that because you're looking and going, well, where are the results? I've been listening to the clips. I heard him say that Epstein killed himself. I heard him say for a long time not to let it go, and now he's telling us to. Huh. People felt the same way about Kash Patel, who went out there and said it on what did he say, 1,000 podcasts? I listened to his sworn testimony. It's interesting because people felt like there was a connection that was being made. And then one of two things is true. Either they are going to fight through the cognitive dissonance, or they are going to realize that the thing that they felt was theirs was a betrayal. But these people don't know you exist. And this story from the New Yorker is kind of interesting because it takes a different tact on it, and it writes about the acts of service. This is from their Annals of Law Enforcement. The FBI director isn't just enforcing the president's agenda at the Bureau. He's seeking retribution for past investigations of Donald Trump. But the question then is he? Is he really doing that? Because I think the left has spun some version of Patel that's a boogeyman, which is why there's blood in the water right now. It's why you have a story from MS Now. It's really hard to say. MSNBC guys, Ted Galanian yesterday, going out and running a story about the girlfriend and the waste of money. And you see people on the left covering the story of the jet. For those of us that sit in the middle, it's straightforward. We just go, using the jet, no matter who you are, that's in a wasteful way, is a waste of the American taxpayer's dollar. We don't like that. That's not a personal comment. Chris Wray did it. Jim Comey did it. Kash Patel does it. We got it. Okay. Like maybe we can just agree that this is not the way that we should treat our, low-level elected representatives. They're not even elected, rather. They're these appointed guys that are carrying out the policy of our elected representatives. And then you have the other side of it, which is just like, because he's not our guy, we're mad about it. On June 5th, Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, was in Austin, Texas, recording a podcast with Joe Rogan. This is actually kind of telling. Some of you actually saw this when he went on Rogan, and you realize where this came from. But this is the same thing that the rest of the Trump administration has kind of done for media and marketing. We've seen Kristi Noem go out and do this thing. We've seen less of RFK Jr. We've seen less of Pete Hegseth running out and doing this. Anyone who doesn't run in front of a microphone left and right seems to be more successful. And the people that are out there trying to do nothing but spin, it seems like, at least from the outside, coverage for failure. And I think people are catching on for the media savviness that this administration was supposed to have. It doesn't seem to have it there. So he went on and he wore this olive green hoodie, which was like one of his Kash Patel hoodies, which is kind of frustrating in and of itself, kind of like merched out. And he's smoking a cigar, and he's talking about the Chinese Communist Party trying to kill Americans with fentanyl. And that's why apparently he was in China in the last couple of weeks. That's been going on for a long time. You think you talk the Chinese out of their multi-decade plan to prey on American weakness, where we just want to escape the escapism, whether it be through visual means of entertainment or whether it be through drugs or alcohol. Like, Americans love their escapes, especially because I guess the world must be too easy in some ways for many people, and they just want to get away from it, or the world is too hard and they've given up on it. I don't think you can really make that happen. If you were to do those things 150 years ago, nobody would have known who you were because it would have been the end of you. If you were out there, being in an opium den, you don't procreate, you don't survive, you don't eat. We've got a different scenario now. We have all these safety nets. In any case, what I found interesting was somebody decided to go back in and ask people about Patel's past associations. They wanted to go and speak to the men who knew him when he was coming up. And I've never done this, and I probably should have before I went there. And the reason why this is so frustrating is because I actually endorsed this guy. I put my seal of approval, and I said, this guy knows what the problems are at the FBI because he said he did. Read some stuff here. Many of Kash Patel's past associates are similarly astonished at his rise and his ability to jump into the space with Donald Trump. This guy's name is Bennett Gershman. He's a professor at Pace University's law school, where Patel got his law degree. Described Patel as at best average student who was interested in issues of social justice and identity politics. The scamming part of this is starting to come in here. He seemed to be very much on the left side, Gersh said, Former colleagues in Miami, where he spent 8 years as a public defender, called him an adequate attorney. We had 200 lawyers. He was neither the best nor was he the worst, said Bennett Brummer, the elected Dade County public defender at the time. A cardiothoracic surgeon who became friends with Patel in Miami said his passions were hockey and exploring ways to get rich. I'm sharing this because I feel like we've learned something. People who are interested in hockey, social justice, identity politics, and ways to get rich, they alight on certain ideas. Like maybe if I could be the FBI director, I could get myself a jet because my business acumen sucks. Things he said in his first day. It's an interesting thing for someone to say, that his biggest interests were ways to get rich and hockey. It actually reminds me of one of my younger brothers. And I don't think he plays hockey anymore. And I don't think he's rich. I don't think he's happy. But maybe if he had aligned with Donald Trump and decided to go all in on that, he could be. In his 2023 memoir, Government Gangsters, he describes himself as an unknown first-generation Indian American. By the way, you can't call him an Indian American. I've been told reliably that that's racist, per lawsuits by his girlfriend's law firm. I'm just reading what they said. And he's a kid from Queens and Long Island who ended up being the lead investigator that uncovered the greatest political scandal in American history. Maybe that's true. Maybe Russiagate was the greatest scandal. I think the story of the pipe bomber is going to actually be a little bit more insidious because it spanned multiple administrations. More on that in a little bit here. It's a reminder of another kid from Queens, which is the Donald Trump story. A struggle to win the respect of the establishment, someone who became the leader of the free world. Talking about the historic scandal referred to as Russiagate, and they went on and on about this. I found out the other day that, I didn't know as much about Russiagate as other people do, and I didn't care. It never occurred to me that I should have to know all of it. But then again, I never wrote a book about it and got rich on talking about something over and over again. Apparently that upset Mike Flynn. Mike Flynn was upset with me. He called me a hotshot yesterday because I didn't know about the Russian academic chick who, whatever, may or may not have had a relationship with him and apparently did not, but I didn't know her name. Svetlana something or other. It's apparently a criminal offense to not know all the stories of all the things that happened. And I got to tell you, I read enough to know it's okay, well, that was a scam. I've moved on. Some people really delve into it. I understand that. The idea that somebody would be able to impose their interests on another person, and if we don't share those interests, then I've somehow betrayed you. Isn't that interesting? There is this instinct like that right now. And this goes to this parasocial relationship. I get these in the comments all day long. You have not done the research that I am interested in, and now I'm mad at you, even though you don't know me, even though we have no agreement that we would have the same things. I have attributed a bunch of ideas to you. This is why people are upset with Donald Trump, with the Make America Great Again movement, with the America First, but it turns out to be some kind of strange bedfellows. Let's just real quickly. The White House is going to be welcoming the Saudi Crown Prince. First time in quite a while. This is after Jamal Khashoggi was murdered. People could be upset about that. Inviting terrorists into the Oval Office. You've assigned certain priorities that you believe Donald Trump holds because they are your priorities. People have believed that certain people that are going into government, they meant what they said in the way that you believe that they meant it. And so they're mad at them. And it looks like this. The word is parasocial. It is Cambridge Dictionary's word of the year. And it may describe how women, I guess is that Taylor Swift on the screen right there? I think it is. I actually can't tell. That kind of looks like a transvestite to me. Then again, so does Taylor Swift. She's built like a skinny gay man. Parasocial, how you may have felt after Taylor Swift's engagement, is the Cambridge Dictionary word of the year. I found it fascinating, in so much as so many people have ascribed things to folks they don't know for reasons that they can probably not articulate. I believe in this person. I trust this person who does not even know that I exist. Again, I talked about it the other day. The concept of walking up to a complete stranger, looking at something that they have done. They're wearing a t-shirt that I don't agree with. It has a swear word on it or something, or some sort of messaging, rainbows and transgender ideology. I don't know. And then me being upset with that person for not thinking the way that I do, it suggests me that it's a form of mental illness. I don't know how you could walk out there in the world and imagine that everybody knows what you want them to do, and then that they are somehow also required to meet your expectation. If you felt a personal connection with a celebrity this year, you likely weren't alone. I'm going to cut out the word celebrity here, and I'm going to add a political figure, because those of us who talk about politics all the time, we're kind of nerdy in that way. And they are the sports figures or the celebrities of the world that we're talking about. But it could be politicians. It can be real celebrities. It can be athletes. It can be entertainment figures, and so on. If you felt a personal connection with somebody of high profile this year, you're likely not alone. That feeling led the Cambridge Dictionary to select the word parasocial, P-A-R-A, social, as its 2025 word of the year. And parasocial is defined as involving or relating to a connection that someone feels between themselves and a famous person they do not know, a character in a book, a film, a TV series, or an artificial intelligence. Isn't that interesting? Doesn't that kind of just tell us the breakdown? When there are people who believe that they have all of the requirements of a relationship. Relationships are give and take. I have expectations on you. You have to meet those expectations. You have expectations on me. I have to meet them. If we don't, we probably have a fallout of some kind. They should be formed on some sort of mutual understanding. A parasocial relationship is one-sided. It's that this person projects into the world, I am this thing. I am this person. Or maybe even I am this character and I play this role. And then the other end of it is your end, where you interpret it and you say, well, I believe all of these things about you. And I've also assigned all of these burdens that I need you to meet. And if you do not, then I will become incensed and outraged and I am betrayed. Apparently this term has been around for 70 years. But I would say in the era of social media, in Instagram, where people are following on X, I get this nonstop. People will say, I used to believe in you, and now you've betrayed my trust. It's like, well, who the F are you? Who are you? What are you talking about? I didn't meet your expectations. I'm sorry, person that I didn't know. Yeah, I'll do better. Why don't you tell me all the things that you expect of me in some sort of private message, and then I can try to live up to them? It's a very strange place. And for any of you that have any bit of social media following, maybe you've run for local politics, the outrage that people will have for you not doing the thing that they expected of you, that you never promised them because you have no actual relationship with them, that is this concept of parasocial relationships. Millions of people are involved in parasocial relationships. What's fun is, or fun, I guess, in a kind of a quirky way, I think the problem is that they're not involved in real relationships. We have a generation of people, probably for the first time ever, that are growing up in the era where Facebook is normal. I don't know why. I gotta share this. This is actually really gross. I had a guy who is a father who has a daughter that looks like she probably has like cerebral palsy and 2 or 3 other children. Randomly on Facebook, found my profile, which I don't use. I only have it for Facebook Messenger, and we have an opportunity to send out the Kyle Seraphin show there if we want. So I have this throwaway profile. I'm not following anybody. I'm following my first sergeant when I was in the Air Force, when I got discharged in 2012. I'm following Ryan Matta, and I think I'm following maybe one of you in the chat. I don't even know who I'm following or why. And this guy wrote me the most nasty, disgusting message about my wife, by the way, for no reason. Has no idea who I am. Has a disabled special needs kid. No context why he's mad at me or why he's mad in general. And I just went, do you not have actual relationships in your life, guy who's mad at me? Like, how did you get like this? It's not safe for most people who have no concept of what real people are. Imagine walking up and saying something horrible about somebody's anatomy. I don't know how to get non-specific about this. You walked up and you said the most nasty thing to a grown man on the street that you knew about because you'd read about him in the newspaper or you'd seen him on social media. That's what we're talking about. These parasocial relationships. And you feel totally justified because this person, you believed one thing about them and then they didn't live up to it, even though they never knew that you even existed, nor did they know what your expectations were. Millions of people are involved in these. If you want to talk about the reason why this audience has always kind of gelled behind the concept that if we could push a red button and turn off the internet, even though it would mean that I would no longer do this job, I think we'd be fine with that. Because this concept of parasocial connections, one-sided, hope-based, my personal intimate thoughts projected onto you and you not living up to them has led us to a place of like a lot of really nastiness. There's just this gross instinct. We're going to celebrate because Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got engaged. Like, I love when people get engaged. One of our audience just got engaged and shared with me a note. And congratulations. That's awesome. I think choosing someone to spend your life with is a great plan, especially if it's the right person that's going to be able to stay with you. That's all great. The fans are captivated by this girl's lyrics in her songs, which oftentimes are not written by her, as far as I can tell. And you're going to celebrate because she's getting engaged. And you're seeing this picture on the screen with a bunch of grown women who should be finding their own love story. And they are living vicariously through someone else. And if they break up or it doesn't work out, they'll be crushed and heartful. I think the beginnings that I saw of this was people being upset with what happened to Princess Diana in the 80s. That was the first time I remember a parasocial relationship. And it was American women assigned to like British royalty. Like, why? Because we want to see something out there in the world and put ourselves onto it. Parasocial relationships can become problematic, says a professor of experimental psychology at the University of Cambridge. What was her first clue, do you think? We've entered an age when many people have formed an unhealthy and intense parasocial relationship with influencers. Cat Turd speaks for me. That's the crowd that I'm most concerned with. If Donald Trump says it, it's good enough for me. I'm behind it. I trust Kash Patel. I trust Kristi Noem. She was always great. I think she's pretty on Fox News. Pam Bondi wants the best thing for this country and not Qatar or whatever. So these weird little influencer moments that we're dealing with have really created something kind of scary, I think. And it's universal. It's across the entire political aisle. I just want to put that in the context as we talk about some of the stories that are out there, as we sort of consider the political environment. I want you to do a self-assessment. How much of it is because you had an unrealistic expectation of the person that you think you know something about this person because they gave a campaign speech one time? I think a lot of it comes back to that. And that's maybe hard for us to understand. You had a personal thought about how MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, was. I've had people say both sides of the coin within the last 48 hours to me. I despise her. Jewish space lasers. At any moment she'll say something else. CrossFit, blah, 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 whatever. Marital infidelity. And then on the other side, they're like, she's more America first and she's more MAGA than Donald Trump. It's like, you don't know MTG. My instinct from looking on the outside is that I don't much care for the way that she's presented herself, but I'd be open to meeting her as a human being and giving her a fair shake in the same way that I'd be open to meeting almost anybody on these things that we talk about. Some of these personas, they cannot be fake because they've been doing it for so long. And there's so much example. My dislike for Lindsey Graham and people who know him's dislike for Lindsey Graham and the way that he presents himself and the sliminess is pretty clear. But that doesn't mean that I would walk up to him and just walk up and, I might make a casual war boner reference, but I'm not going to go up there and be disrespectful out of nowhere. He hasn't betrayed me. People are mad at Tom Massie because he was initially with Donald Trump, but then he was not with Donald Trump. It's like, you've created a soap opera drama out of maybe boredom in your own life. So as an encouragement, I encourage everybody to also remember all of this stuff that's going on. It probably doesn't actually affect you, which is the entire argument for getting rid of the larger size of the federal government. I don't want a huge federal government because we're playing soap opera drama with people who are clearly engaged in kabuki theater and this sort of like show trial and this nonsense. These people are out there pressing a reality, and we all get sucked into it, and occasionally we all believe that this drama actually does something. But just like nothing stopped when they shut down our government. And most of us had zero experience of a different life. The day we woke up, we were like, aha, federal government is shut down, but everything works. And then we act like there's this existential threat in what's happening. The things that are actually a threat are the relationships you have in your own life, the way that you actually are carrying yourself through the world, your children, your health. We're going to talk about health in just a second here. In fact, that's what I'm going to do next, because that thing seems so much more important. And what I see is people trying to vote their way out of a solution when in reality, they probably should be on a treadmill. And some of that is going to come up in a most recent story that I read about weight loss drugs. You guys remember Donald Trump the other day talking about the fat drug and saving everybody money. It's because I feel like we're lazy. We don't want to put in the hard work to get something done, myself included oftentimes. Before we do there, you know what's not lazy? Our government apparatus to gather your information. It is not lazy. It is constantly functioning. It is tracking your cell phone. It is looking for your breadcrumbs. It is looking for your RF signals coming out of cellular and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and GPS and NFCs and RFID and so on. And if you guys want to stop big tech and government agencies, corporate data brokers, cyber criminals, take your pick, your nosy neighbor who's also a nerd, they all want a piece of your digital footprint. They don't have to ask. They can literally take it because you are out there pinging the world with it. You want to shut some of that stuff down. Get yourself a silent Faraday bag. You can get one of their backpacks. You can get one of their waist packs. You can get one of their waterproof backpacks. If you are a combat diver, you can get their dive backpack, which will actually have a purge valve and allow you to take it underwater. They make them in Berry compliance. If you need them made in America, they make them. Some of the stuff is made overseas, sold here. Good people making great technology. It's the same stuff used by our special operations teams. And once you pop your phone in there, it's no tracking, it's no remote access, there's no breadcrumbs. It's the same kind of thing that I used when I was on counterintelligence and we wanted to make sure we met with sources and protect them. Or maybe you just want to throw your phone in a bag and have a nice quiet dinner. It's slnt.com/KYLE. Again, silent with no vowels.com/Kyle. There is always a link in the show description. My name at checkout will save you 15% when you guys are going through. Check out their reduced prices on there. This is a great present for yourself. It's a good way to go out there and tell someone you love, hey, put that phone down, like my kids remind me sometimes. slnt.com/KYLE. Since we're talking about family, we're talking about kiddos, how about this wild story that I saw? Some of these things are just kind of grab bags and they're nuts. This got me really heated this morning. In light of the Michelle Obama racism, apparently I care about Michelle Obama's hair and whether it's straight or not. I shared it with my wife last night and she was like, what a racist. It's like, yeah. There is an entire faction that is selling that. And this story tells me a little bit about it. A viral TikTok that illustrates the pain of giving birth while black. I'm just going to say it one more time. The pain of giving birth while black. Many of you had no idea there was extra pain associated with giving birth while black. And so I had to go find out what it was that made it. Now, I also looked at this lady and all the pictures that are associated with this article are obese or at least like quite a bit overweight women who are also pregnant, which is relatively common. It turns out it's slightly more common in black women than it is in other women. But there's plenty of us that are overweight or to some degree or another. And it turns out you have negative health outcomes. So I went to the AI because I like to do sort of the composite studies here. And they pull data from the CDC and various government websites and so on. And this story, which I'll read you in 1 second, doesn't key in on the fact that approximately 39.1, there's a couple of different little pieces on here, but there's a decent percentage of black mothers who prior to pregnancy are already in the category of obese. This says 27 to 42. It's actually scanning a bunch of different articles, but the key one that we honed in on in 2016, it was about 36.4. That has increased by 2019 to 39.4, and in 2022, roughly 22%. So an increasing amount of non-Hispanic Black women have pre-pregnancy obesity. And then you ask, well, why is there a higher mortality rate associated with these women? And the answer that the AI gives us, because we know that it depends on what it reads and what it's programmed by, is that there's a combination of factors which increase the pain of giving birth while Black. And they include, first and foremost, systemic racism and chronic stress and unequal access to quality health care. These are the issues that contribute to health outcomes and disparities in them. Well, that's quite interesting, isn't it? So, is there a difference between non-Hispanic Black women and white women? And here's the numbers. About 29% of non-Hispanic white women in 2022. So 29% versus 42%, that's a pretty good gap. 13%. This is obese women during pregnancy. And all that is going to take me back to the story here that we're going to read through, because again, this nonsense of putting out excuses, it combines with, I'm not going to solve my problems. I'm actually going to create a relationship with somebody outside of myself that I can assign all my problems, and they should have fixed it. And why didn't they? They were elected to. I've just personally held them accountable, whether they knew it or not. The Dallas Regional Medical Center said in a statement, it is committed to providing compassionate, high-quality care to every person who comes through their door. This is the Dallas Regional Medical Center in Mesquite, Texas, just up the road from me. And the reason they put out that statement is because there was a viral TikTok video where a Black woman in active labor is crying out in pain while a white nurse calmly sits and ignores her distress. And it's a disturbing pattern that this Black doctor wrote about. And she wrote a book called Legacy, A Black Physician's Reckoning with Racism in Medicine, which is totally not a pre-foregone conclusion where she's going to write a book about something where she already decided what was going to be true about it. The video got 36 million views over the weekend. And they claim that the baby was born 12 minutes after the video was filmed, which means that the woman was not just in active labor, she was actually in delivery at that point in time. She was moving into the phase where the baby is coming out. That's really painful. I don't know if you guys have ever been part of a birth, but it's pretty aggressive. It's incredible. But the pain, depending on whether you had an epidural, whether the epidural was functional or not, if you're doing just a natural childbirth, it's pretty wild. And especially if it's the first. But women have been doing this for thousands of years. There's a reason why we're all here. We were all once somewhere else. And then a woman gave birth to us through great pain, it turns out. So this is shocking to learn that there is actually pain associated with childbirth. I've seen it. I've been part of probably a dozen deliveries as a paramedic, and the 4 of my own look super painful. Some women are very stoic. My wife is stoic. She didn't even make a sound. Not a single noise. You wouldn't have never known that she was giving birth to a baby if you were outside in the hallway. Some women are really dramatic and they just scream at the top of their lungs, and it's really frustrating, and it's just kind of annoying if you're used to women who are stoic. But that's just the way they carry out. Everybody experiences pain differently. You guys have seen this in your own life. So you filmed a woman who was particularly dramatic, and anybody who's ever been in the emergency room, which is where I used to work, there are people that come in. Oftentimes, they are people who are in poverty, and they are incredibly dramatic about their pain. Usually, it's their own fault. Almost always their own fault. The biggest crybabies that we would ever get in the ER were Black men who were very muscular, who were living at the poverty line based on their own admission that they couldn't afford healthcare and so on. And they would have a toothache. So they came in because they had a rotted tooth. They would come into an emergency room, which is not a dentist, where we had no ability to do anything. And then they would ask for pain medication, and then we wouldn't give it to them because that wasn't what we did. And it was obviously their own fault because they had allowed a tooth to get to the point where it's now 9:45 on a Saturday night and you're having crazy pain from something that was highly predictable hours earlier, days earlier, and you knew this was a problem because your mouth smells like something is rotted inside of it because your tooth is rotted out in your face. And they would scream like little babies. Meanwhile, we'd have women who were in active labor that would be silent 5 feet away from them. and were clearly going through significant amounts, maybe the most pain that they would ever go through in their life. I'm just telling you. The idea that you would go out there and attribute this to racism in medicine, it also turns out there's like this big piece in America that we used to have, which was like self-responsibility. And if your bad decisions lead to more bad decisions, and then we can see them from the outside, we are less inclined to be super sympathetic to you. I was the least sympathetic to people who were most likely in a place because of their own stupidity, because of their own poor decision making, the predictable outcome of a incredible line of not good, what do we used to call it in the military? Bad decision theater. We would just sit there and watch and go, yeah. Oh, you're having a bad outcome from these 15 in a row bad decisions? That's shocking. It doesn't inspire compassion. Plus, if anyone's ever been around an emergency room, people screaming in pain is what they do. That's why they're there. This is not like you're at church and then suddenly doubles over and you're like, oh my God, how can we help this person? You're in a hospital. You're in a place, especially if you're in like a labor and delivery floor. People are having babies. Again, the nurses there have seen all of it. It's not racism, but it is incredible that they do an entire article, and this was one of the lead stories over at MS Now, pushing this agenda that we've got this wild racist problem in medicine. And then they also had this story, and this is covered by multiple places. This is by NBC, which is their cohort. Novo Nordisk is going to offer a really big discount on Ozempic and Wegovy. They're going to give both these drugs. Because rather than do the thing like, I don't know, cut your caloric intake, put in the hard work, wouldn't it be nice if you could just get a shot and not have to be chubby anymore? Now, you might have to sacrifice some brain tissue, and it might actually like degrade the musculature in your heart, and there may be some side effects that result in you dying soon. Whenever you guys listen to these pharmaceutical ads, do you guys have the same experience I do, where you're just listening to it and you're going like, holy crap, did somebody hear all of these possible side effects? And they were like, yep, still, my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can't handle this anymore. It's time for me to have gastric distress and bloody stools. Allow me to get this injection so that I can have somewhat clearer skin so I can go hang out in this Nordic spa that I see on the commercial. Like, are people watching that and they're gonna be like, yeah, whenever I go to a Nordic spa that's out in Iceland, I want to make sure that my skin is clear. And in order to do that, I'm going to have crippling diarrhea every day of my life and possibly die from internal bleeding. I want my heart to stop beating because it doesn't have any more musculature in it. It no longer functions. But at least I won't be fat when I die at 40. Or you could just bust your ass and start, eating less and working out hard. And every time I say something like this, guys, just so you guys know in the chat, I get emails. I had somebody send me some books and tell me that what you're saying is it's ignoring the reality of hormones and people's difficulty in losing weight. Okay. It still doesn't ignore the first rule of thermodynamics. The fact of the matter is that if you put in material and mass, it has to be consumed in some way, shape, or form. It's either going to be stored or it's going to be turned into energy. The end. I will definitely get hate mail from this. Anyway, Novo Nordisk is going to offer a special discount for $199 a month. I'm trying to think of what I would spend $199 a month on. And it's not this. And by the way, the second month, it's going to be $349. This is a GLP-1 weight loss drug. Far from cheap. Yeah, that's saying something. Adding a $200. Most people in America right now, we found, cannot even handle a $400 unplanned emergency. But you're going to somehow be able to handle a $200 and then a $350 weight loss injection. It's an interesting choice. Until the end of March, these companies will let people get hooked on. This is like actual drug dealer behavior, isn't it? The first dose is cheap or free. I remember that from the Dare ads when I was in the 80s, when I was a kid. Try this out, man. Once you're hooked, then it costs you more money, and then you're going to have to steal from your mom's purse. And why is the government involved in this? This was a negotiation that Donald Trump was involved in, right? The deal will be Ozempic and Wegovy's website. People can register for the discounts, and they can use them at pharmacies, and they can do them through telehealth. $199 per month applies to only the lowest dosage, which is 0.25 milligrams and 0.5 milligram injections. The $349 deal includes 1 milligram dosage. The maximum dose that you can get is 2, and that's not part of the deal. So I guess if you're a super fat, as that lady explained the other day, It doesn't work. Donald Trump said this month he was working with Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly to lower the out-of-pocket cost of their GLP-1 weight loss drug for as little as $50 on people that are on Medicare, which means that since the government's gotten involved, it's going to cost more for everybody else. That's just the way it always works, to around $350, depending on dosage and insurance covers. They make other drugs as well, something else called Zepbound, whatever the heck that is. The GLP-1 medications are highly sought after for their weight loss benefits, but they've been shown to improve heart health, obstructive sleep apnea, and reduce cancer mortality, all of which are associated with obesity, which also is associated with complications during pregnancy. It turns out being extra fat and running around with an extra part of your body that you do not require, it's not beneficial for you. And so you could do it a couple different ways. You could assume that it's the government's job to come in and save you. You could have a parasocial relationship with these politicians and believe that their job is to make America healthy again. That means that you don't have to do anything. It reminds me of what was going on with RFK Jr., right? People are like, how come he hasn't made America healthy yet? Well, what have you done? Why have you made some man in his 70s be the icon who's going to make you healthy or someone else healthy around you or make Americans healthy? Everybody wants to just push this stuff out there and assign this problem to someone else. I find it kind of fascinating. But a lot of that, I think, when you don't have real relationships, we used to actually know that you could go and talk to somebody in your like one of your friends would be like, hey man, I noticed you putting on some weight. Maybe we could get after it. I actually reached out to my buddies in high school. We did the same thing. I go, hey guys, I bet you're all heavier than you were when we were in our teenage years, which is obviously true. Let's start doing something simple. Let's do something constructive every single day. Let's drop down and do a set of push-ups when we wake up and a set of push-ups before we go to bed. What say you? And everybody's like, yeah, let's do it. Cool. It took a couple of days before they all dropped off. I started that in August. I'm still doing it. I do not like doing push-ups. I don't actually really enjoy doing fitness. But I also look out there and decided, you know what? I don't have parasocial relationships. Some of you guys, we have a parasocial relationship. You watch me on the podcast and some people think that I'm talking directly to them. You know, I don't know you. I might get along with you or I might not in real life. Let's be realistic about that. But I have a real relationship with my children. They walk up every day and I see them. So my job is to be fit enough to be a good dad and to be a good husband and to be able to do things around the house. So if mom says, hey, pick up this ladder and move it somewhere, it's like, no problem. Dad stuff, move it. What if I got to pick up a kid? The other day we went on a hike and my middle child, my daughter, was like, I'm tired. I can't walk anymore. And I said, no problem. And I threw her on my shoulder and I buddy carried her for a couple hundred yards where she decided that a buddy carry is not what she was thinking of as being fun. She would rather not get bounced on dad's shoulders, which are not soft. So I put her back down and she walked again. That's a real relationship, really translated into actual use. There's no shot that will make you a better dad. There's no shot that will make you fit enough to take your kids out into the world. So you got to do the work. So I do. But I watch my buddies kind of fall off on that. Maybe they expect somebody else is going to solve that problem for them. Kind of interesting to me. It's interesting that this symptom of parasociality, of putting something on somebody else, what it also means is that you don't have to have the other part of it, right? One-sided social media relationship equals I've absolved myself of responsibility. I wonder if that's why we have this crisis that's going on right now. This is the main story that we were going to cover today. Thinking about what's happening with immigration enforcement in the USA today. This is how immigrants feel. This is coming from the New York Times. 50% of them are afraid, and 50% of them are angry. Only 40% of them believe what's going on is necessary. 22% of immigrants are satisfied, and 15% are proud of the immigration enforcement efforts that are happening. Why would that be? Is it because that they've put expectations on this country? That there's a parasocial relationship between the people who came here and their expectations are that Americans as a nation must take care of them even though we didn't agree to it? They were in some other place and they said, America is this land and it has all these things and it owes me what I need. I believe that Joe Biden is going to provide for us the things that we require. So I'm going to make a dangerous trip and potentially get killed or raped along the way, which are realistic possibilities when you leave a border open. We all talked about that for literally years. And half the people get here have an unrealistic expectation, a parasocial expectation on the politicians and on the American people. Did any of us sign up and say, listen, we're willing to take the give me your tired and your weak and your huddled masses, right? Bring them all in. You're sick. We want to take care of them. No. The whole point was that they were yearning to breathe free and have an opportunity, that they weren't crushed under some weight of some, tyrannical government. Our government is plenty tyrannical right now, and it's even more tyrannical if they think that people are supposed to show up here, and our job is not to do something freely through Christian charity. As we talked about, James Madison said, you are now mandating it. We must do it because you're going to take money from my pocket, whether I like it or not, and you're going to freely distribute it to people who I did not make an agreement with. Kind of interesting. Let's read the story here from New York Times. If I can find it. There it is. All right. A survey found that half of immigrants to the United States feel less safe since Donald Trump took office. By the way, phrasing, because that means 50% of the people who came here feel more safe or the same. That's interesting. Trump administration seeks to remake the immigration system and deport tens of thousands of people. I thought it was going to be millions. Even the first sentence disappoints me already. That's my parasocial expectation because I believed in those campaign promises. Many immigrants are more scared of living in the United States, yet their resolve to remain here is largely unchanged. A new survey of immigrants in the country, and here's where it gets really fun, right? Both documented and undocumented. In other words, people who are here illegally have feelings about the place that they broke the law to come to. Isn't that interesting? They vary widely on how and when they arrived, and found that about half of immigrants say they feel less safe since Donald Trump took office. I would really like it if they only polled the legal immigrants, but they won't do that. They needed to mix this in to make sure that we got a smattering of people who have no right to be here in the first place and whose opinions are completely irrelevant. Isn't that fun? The survey was done by the New York Times and KFF, a nonprofit that conducts polling research about health policy. No idea why that's relevant. The immigrants surveyed, whether they're here legally or not, or have been naturalized as citizens, have concerns that they or a family member could be detained or deported, and that's risen significantly since Mr. Trump's return to power. Can we be really clear? If they have been naturalized, or if they're here legally, then they will not be detained or deported, it turns out. That's just not how things work. So when you read this, and by the way, there are 4 authors to this piece, they've deliberately confused what's going on here. The only thing I want to know is, do people who came to this country that are surviving by actually, and I don't want that, like, I'm only interested in immigrants who are not on government assistance, which is a huge chunk of it. A lot of them are. So if you came here and you came to America and you're busting your ass and you've started a business and maybe you're a barber or maybe you run a landscaping business or maybe you have a computer programming service, I don't know. If you came here legally, are you happy with your decision to come here? The rest of it is completely irrelevant. It constitutes a one-sided parasocial relationship that you created in your head that nobody else signed on or agreed to. The crazy part about this story is that you can go to the folks over at NBC, and this is their lead story. Immigration's arrest in Charlotte. That's the newest push. So it was in Chicago, and it was in Seattle and Portland. They did some work. And so there was all this kind of, shenanigans and National Guard. And now they've decided to push in and go after Charlotte. Immigration officials have arrested more than 130 people. That's far too few. 130 people would be a good morning. Let's do that every shift, please, if we're going to go ahead and do this thing. If we were going to remove people that are the parasitic, parasocial types that have decided the American people have to support them for some damn reason, even though they have no right to be here. They're not even allowed to work. It's illegal for them to have a job, and it's illegal for you to hire them to do the job. Joseph Ocampo has called this southern city his home for 6 years, but after immigration enforcement descended over the weekend, the American citizen of Colombian descent said he doesn't leave the house without his passport. That's just smart. I don't leave the house without my driver's license, which says that I'm an American, military veteran. Why? Because I carry a firearm, because I'm an American and I want to be able to ID myself in case somebody asks me. I've never had a cop randomly stop me and say, hey man, are you carrying a gun and can you ID yourself? But just in case, there's nothing wrong with that. You carry your passport, so be it. Okay, great. You're an American citizen and you're worried about that? Smart. Yeah, you don't want to be construed with the people who break the law. So you take some you take some proactive moves to not be caught up in that. It's like, how do I know you're an American? Oh, you have an American passport. There you are. Oh, that's you in the picture. Got it. What's your social? What's your date of birth? Very good. Have a nice day, sir. Sorry to bother you. Thanks for paying your taxes. You're paying for this, guys. Guy, Jonathan Ocampo. I'm carrying it here and now, which is sad, he said. Why is it sad? He worries that his father, a citizen who's been in the country for 40 years, could be targeted because he's Hispanic looking. And he speaks what is described as very broken English. Well, that's a big part of it, isn't it? Because aren't you supposed to come here and assimilate? Isn't that what we brought? Like, why can you come here and not operate on the language that Americans operate under? That's a you problem. If you are here for 40 years and you look like or you sound like you don't belong here because you never actually participated in being here, I actually have a fairly realistic problem with that. And I don't think that that is a parasympathetic association or a parasocial situation. I didn't project that upon you. That's the expectation. If you went to Italy and you didn't speak Italian, at some point, why are you there? How do you do business there? You only stick to the people that speak English, and they're in English-speaking enclaves? You can't actually interact with the real people there? Doesn't make any sense. You've been here 40 years and all you have is broken English? That's a you problem. I knew people that were here for 10 years that never spoke English, and they still spoke totally passable English. They were from, Balkan states, and they came over from parts of the Soviet Union. A couple years. They busted their ass. They were in their 40s and 50s. They were not exactly primed to learn a new language, but they decided that this was where their future was. They came here legally, and so they fixed that problem. 40 years and you don't speak English. According to DHS, Homeland Security, more than 130 people have been arrested since the Border Patrol began the immigration push. They're calling it Operation Charlotte's Web. That's cute and clever. It's put many residents and business owners on a state of edge. Why? Why is the city on edge? Are there that many illegal aliens? It turns out there might be. The city of Raleigh, which is northeast of Charlotte, was bracing for more arrests on Tuesday. And the mayor confirmed in a call that immigrations officers from ICE and from Customs and Border Protection and Immigration Customs Enforcement, that's what ICE is, are already on the ground. She said that the activities could start as soon as today, Tuesday, this morning. Local law enforcement does not plan on assisting. That's fine. They don't have to. We're committing to protecting our residents and to following the law, said the mayor of Raleigh. Ooh, can you protect residents if they're not here legally? They're criminals, are they not? They're illegal aliens. They're in violation of U.S. law. So how are you going to protect them? A popular Latino bakery was closed on Monday over fear for Border Patrol activity. Well, why would you have to be closed? Again, all these are so simple. Several small businesses in the shopping center also shut their doors after immigration authorities were seen smashing windows of a car of a Honduran-born U.S. citizen. Yeah, that's not great. There's going to be mistakes. Guess what, though? They hit the wrong door with SWAT sometimes. It's terrifying. It is the worst thing. It's why I want small government. But this problem is massive because it was allowed to become massive. And the people who are involved in it, the folks that are actually, who created this problem, the people who came over here and set up this expectation that they could live in a place where they're not allowed to be, you all got warning. You're now making it worse for people around you. So I get that. Like, yeah, nobody wants to have their window smashed. I guarantee they'll buy a new window. I bet that will make that person not trust the federal government. So now we should have not a new Democrat, but a new ridiculously aggressive libertarian constitutional conservative who says we should have smaller federal government. So maybe we win with that. But yeah, kicking down a door is not great. Guy said he was scared. Of course, yeah. I watched the video, by the way. If you guys, and I can't pull the videos right now because of the Cloudflare thing. But somebody was using a rifle and smashed in through the glass. That's pretty awful. Why were you not opening the door? Just out of curiosity. Like, I don't know. When a dude comes up with an AR-15 and he's wearing HSI placards or police or sheriff's department, I'm probably opening the door. I don't think he's there to drag me out and assassinate me. It was kind of an interesting sort of pushback. I'm not going to open my door because I don't need to. I guess you lose a window that way. That probably was a lawful order. He said, I was scared. It's seen on video. He's staying inside his car and he's telling agents if they broke the glass, they have to pay for it. That's an obvious thing. The agent ultimately shattered the glass and they pulled him out and they pulled him to the ground. DHS said he's trying to distract officers so that others could evade. That may be the case. There have been people that have been following these DHS officers around. They've been following ICE convoys in Portland and others. They're trying to warn people so that they can get away to continue breaking the law. And that's kind of wild. The deployments in Charlotte are the latest in the string of high-profile immigration enforcement actions, which, by the way, we're on. That's the thing that we actually do. That is not a parasocial expectation. That was something that was explicitly promised during the campaign, that we have something like 20 million people that don't belong here. And they've caused housing problems. They've caused downward push on wages. They've increased the cost of our medical system because they can't afford it. Like, there's a lot of things that go on in immigration. When you bring people in, you bring in all the problems of people, potentially even including systemic racism and pain in childbirth for black women. I don't know. Maybe we can blame it on immigration. It's just as likely as the other thing, like chronic stress. So they go back to this one guy who says he doesn't think that Charlotte is unique in being focused on federal immigration. They're targeting anyone who has a strong Hispanic presence. Why would that be? Oh, because people of Hispanic origin are the largest group of people that have come here illegally. It's like, what would you expect them to do? The crazy part is that there are churches that are half empty, and this is being advertised. There are businesses that are closing, as you guys heard. There are plenty of schools that seemed like something like 15%. Stephen Miller went on and spoke about it the other day. 15% of students are not showing up in schools. Some kids are probably just ditching because they can, and some have no right to be in this country. It doesn't seem crazy to think that we should actually hold the line on the things that were promised. To me, they're pulling these people in and finding out that they have criminal records, including known gang membership, aggravated assault, possession of a dangerous weapon, felony larceny, simple assault, hit and runs, possession of stolen goods, shoplifting, DUI, DWI, and illegal entry after prior deportation. These are people that are multiple time offenders sneaking over the border, which is also a felony. So they're finding criminals, which I thought what we were going to be doing. Why have people have an expectation that they can come to this nation and do whatever the hell they want when no one told them that that was the case? I think the word of the year is good. Parasocial. Assigning things a one-sided relationship where you get to define the terms and you can be decidedly unhappy about it. If the other part of the relationship, which did not consent to being in this relationship, lets you down. We have a truly parasocial scenario in this country. And then people are mad about campaign promises that are like, they're not even being done enough. How many of us would say there should be 10x what's going on? And people on the left think there should be none of it. Bugs me. It bugs me that that's where we're at, where we are so disconnected from each other as a nation that just carrying out the laws of the nation you live in is considered to be problematic. And it's sparking fears. Business closings. All right. I've been waiting here for this pipe bomber story, and I'm going to tell you, I was watching. They were supposed to release it about 30 minutes ago, but it sounds like there may be some legal issues going on there. I'm refreshing the page in the background, and it's not popping up. So we will probably most likely wait till that pops up and have special broadcast on that. I'm going to give you one last story here, which is actually really interesting. And I think this actually does play well into the parasocial theme that I saw this morning. This is from Nick Giordano. I've been on his podcast once. George Hill is a pretty frequent guest there. Steve Friend's been on it a few times. He wrote an article, and this is interesting because it's over at The Federalist, and The Federalist has been not much of a friend to the Suspendables, for whatever it's worth. Backed Julie Kelly. I don't think highly of Sean Davis because of a lot of the stuff that he covers and the way that he wrote it in the background. They've put some nasty stuff out that I think is not just inaccurate, but I think it's unwarranted. But this article is a guest article from Nick Giordano. It says, calling it the Biden FBI diminishes the real threat of a bureaucracy gone wild. And this is this game that is being played. And I do think it fits into the broader theme here. What he says in the sub-headline is that corruption did not begin under Biden and it will not end under Republican administration. This is the idea that we can create a fictitious relationship with time and space, that you can go out and say that there is a this FBI or a that FBI or a this ICE or a that ICE. They are the same people. The people in Border Patrol that are now enacted, going out and doing the enforcement actions. They're the same people. They signed up for the same reasons. They have the same motivations. They have the same family members. They have the same paychecks. All of these things are kind of interesting. We want to assign this this personification to bureaucratic government agencies. And we do so because of parasocial relationships we have with the people that are either in power when it comes to elected office, or the people that are in the administrative positions, because we have some sort of, parasocial relationship and believe that they are representing our best interests. I think Giordano gets it right. You should not fall in love with any government program. You should not fall in love with any of the people that are running it, because the agencies run themselves by and large. The figureheads that are out there that are involved in doing the public media face. Here's another good example. This is a story we'll do tomorrow, maybe. This is Kristi Noem. She did a huge media push, and ProPublica found out that she got basically $220 million in no-bid contracts sent to one of her spokesperson's husbands. That seems problematic. She's doing that. Like, if you're seeing the screen right now, you're seeing Kristi Noem with very pretty hair and a Western shirt on and a hat, and she's riding on a horse, and she got like chaps on at Mount Rushmore. It's made up. You think she runs DHS? No. The people who run DHS run DHS. She's taking pictures like this and signing off on contracts. Calling it a this or a that, a Biden FBI, a that FBI, a this FBI. They're all the same. And how do you know? Because this story that's going to come out about the pipe bomber is going to prove it to you. Ongoing. These agencies are the same as they always were. And your projected relationship with the people who run them, it's only in your head. Senator Chuck Grassley's latest revelations about Operation Arctic Frost demonstrated that the weaponization of our government is far more dangerous than previously understood. What's truly infuriating is the Republican reflex to attach Biden's name to abuses carried out by the FBI, the CIA, or any of the other alphabet agencies, framing it as Biden's FBI, Biden's CIA, misses the point entirely and diminishes the severity of the structural threat. Nick is nailing it right here with the problem. To act like by changing the name or the management, you somehow fix the problem of culture. The labels make Arctic Frost and other abuses sound like they're political controversies. They ignore the grave reality, which is that they are the product of permanent bureaucracy that is so powerful it operates as an unelected fourth branch of government, and it seems unencumbered by the United States Constitution. It can also be demonstrated with the judiciary gone rogue. There's clear evidence that the bureaucracy operates independent of the administration, regardless of which party controls the White House. It's almost like the message that we give you guys here every single day. Do not mistake your belief in someone that you do not know, who does not know you, and who does not feel accountable to you in any way, shape, or form. They don't even feel accountable to the people they know. Ask me how I know that one. I found that out very personally, that these people, even though you have their phone number, and even though you've spoken to them, and even though you have like a pretty good repartee going back and forth, and you might speak on a podcast or you might speak in a radio show, that doesn't mean that they hold the values that you've assigned to them. That's a parasocial mistake. And to act like these bureaucratic entities somehow have just changed because you've flipped the name on the door in the director's office or someone at the top of the bureaucracy. The culture and the rot is ongoing. And I'll say it in a different way. You cannot believe that there is a uniparty and then act surprised that both parties end up having the same results. Either you believe that there is, in fact, only one operating principle, what's good for government is good for us, because we are a government, or you believe something that is a fairy tale and fantasy, because the evidence is overwhelming and it's right in front of you. People keep asking me, well, how would, there was a comment today I read this morning on YouTube. I don't understand. How could our current law enforcement entities cover up this horrible thing? What would it benefit Donald Trump? What would it benefit Kash Patel or a Dan Bongino? What would it benefit Pam Bondi or Susie Wiles or Stephen Miller? How would they benefit from covering up something from January 6th? It's like, well, you assume that they have some sort of control over this. That's a parasocial construct. That's in your brain. I don't know if they think they control it, but I know they don't. And I know they don't because I've watched what these agencies keep doing. And it doesn't matter who's in charge. It turns out they kind of lean towards the left, but they more often lean towards handling their own business. And Giordano's exactly correct on this. He said, look at Donald Trump's first term. Not only did the bureaucracy target him, but it went after his allies and millions of ordinary Americans, including Catholics and parents who just wanted to have a say in their children's education. We had Crossfire Hurricane, which was an insurance policy in case Donald Trump won. The Russian collusion narrative, it collapsed. The bureaucracy pivoted and found a new front. Then there was a leaked phone call between Trump and the Ukrainian president. That became the next weapon. They were determined to remove a duly elected president because it served its own needs. The bureaucracy serves itself. The self-licking ice cream cone doesn't care whether or not you like ice cream or what flavor it is, because it is licking itself. Its needs and its wants are unaware and completely uninterested in what you have assigned to it in the parasocial expectations that you have. Trump was still the president. The permanent bureaucracy pivoted to censorship, information warfare. They targeted him and his supporters, and many people found that out after January 6th, because who was the president on January 6th? Donald Trump. Who appointed the director of the FBI then? Donald Trump. That was Chris Wray. Who put the attorney general in place? Donald Trump. Did it matter? Did it matter because the DOJ began locking up and arresting people despite the fact that the man who was in the Oval Office was still Donald Trump, and his supporters were the ones who were being attacked? Did it matter? No. He got kicked off social media. They took away his weapon system to be able to share what he wanted. Does it mean that Donald Trump is the greatest? No. It just means that you can't say that he was in charge. It would be ignorant. So this is the thing I want people to understand as you go out there and you look at these people and you think, well, they have my best interests at heart. What evidence do you have? Do they even know you exist? And I think because of the word of the year, we can recognize they do not. It should be real clear. So I'm going to put this article, all the others will also be there. It'll be in the show description. It'll be in a pinned comment over on YouTube. It'll be in a pinned comment on Rumble. And we won't be on Locals today because we didn't stream to Locals. So that's where you guys can find it if you're interested. I will put it up, I guess, whenever this Cloudflare thing ends and we have access to it. And you may actually see a pop-up broadcast and even a supplement over on Spotify, because when the story breaks sometime today from Blaze, it will prove to you that the government's interests are in the government. I think. And you're going to find out at least one of the government agencies that cannot extract itself in any way, shape, or form from what it did on January 6th. And I think that the broader context is that other government agencies got right in line and they did exactly what you'd expect them to do. They did not operate under the principles of the person who was the top person there. They operate under their own principles. They are a bureaucracy gone wild. So read this article from Federalist, even though I'm not a big fan of it always. I do like what Giordano has to say about this. And I think you will as well. And allow it to just slightly shade those parasocial expectations that you have on our politicians. And on me, and on anyone else you listen to. If you haven't shaken my hand, if you don't have my phone number, if you haven't met my kids and had dinner at my dinner table, you don't know what's going on necessarily in my head. I share a lot of my thoughts with you, but it doesn't mean that just because we agree on this doesn't mean that we agree on other things. You have no, how would you know? And vice versa, by the way. I don't know what you think, which is why I constantly leave things open. I'm open to disagreement. So come at it in good faith. Don't assume that I already knew that you didn't agree with me, or that I did agree with you, or that somehow we agreed on everything and when I let you down because we didn't, you go out there and write a rage comment. Those are my favorite, the rage comments. Oh, you said this thing and now I'm no longer with it. It's like, sorry to let you down, person who I didn't know. Not trying to be mean. It's just me. This is not two-sided. Whenever any of you want to jump on, that's why we do things on Twitter, so we can do that back and forth, where I can kind of get a sense of who's listening and what are they seeing. Can you expand my understanding? Which happens. People share stuff with me all the time, and then I learn things. I go, oh, great. We're all just one person. All right, I did actually build, luckily enough, I got a couple of palette cleansers because we need them in general. And I will play them right now. Before we do, I'll just remind you guys, you can find us on Spotify. If you're listening after the fact, if you were looking for us on X and we weren't there, that's why. Rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin, YouTube.com/@Kyle Seraphin. It's @Kyle Seraphin on X. And on Spotify, it's KyleSeraphinShow.com. I think I actually have that right there, KyleSeraphinShow.com. Eventually, we'll be back on Locals. I think they said the chat is saying that it's back up. So if you guys can find us there, it's either Kyle Seraphin Show or Kyle Seraphin, both.com. Wherever you're listening, give us a like, hit the little thumbs up, hit the notifications if you want to know when we go live. We appreciate all that. That's what we're working for here. Subscribe to the channels wherever you want to do it. YouTube's great. Rumble's good too. Rumble's less good for various reasons. All right, let's do something kind of funny. Why not? How about we make fun of the French? Can we do that? We can all agree, with all the problems we have in America, the French have always been an easy punching bag. So let's take a couple shots. And a comedian who I haven't seen in a long time, Daniel Tosh, still out there. Apparently he has a podcast called The Tosh Show. Daniel Tosh was one of my favorite stand-up guys. I think he's hysterical. He reminds me of one of my brothers. And here he is giving the French what they deserve.
People always accuse the French of being elitist. I'm going to list a few things, and I want you to say which country does them the best. Food.
France.
You think so?
Uh-huh.
It's not true.
What's the best?
Italy.
No.
Are you kidding me?
No, all the best chefs are in France.
All right, I don't know that that's true. All right. Wine.
France.
Mm-hmm. Cheese.
France.
Fashion.
France.
How about art?
France. Italy has some good arts.
Mm-hmm. Comedy.
France, yeah.
Oh, shut the f*** up.
US.
Shut the f*** up. Pasha.
All right, joke of the day. What is the difference between bird flu and swine flu? One requires ointment and the other one requires tweetment.
If you've never worked in a firehouse, that guy's going to be running because someone's going to grab him. I don't know what's going to happen next, but it won't be good. You can't be dropping those kind of terrible dad jokes on the firehouse floor. You have to pay for that stuff. All right. God bless you guys. Thanks for listening today. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Maybe everything will be working the way it should. Maybe it won't be. Go share a dad joke. Your kids will love that one, by the way. They'll love it. I don't know why they'll love it, but they will. You know they will. See you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.